Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Ken Sterling for Monday, December 2nd, 2019, brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Give Dr. Mike O'Neill a call, 317-849-2933. He's the best dentist in Indiana. In fact, the best dentist in the world. Don't cheat your teeth. Go to Dr. Mike, 317-849-2933. Colts, losers yesterday, 31-17 against the Tennessee Titans. Adam Vinatieri missed 3 more field goal attempts. One, a clean miss from 55 yards. The other 2 were blocked. One of those blocks was low. That's on Vinatieri. One of those blocks, not on Vinatieri. There was a breakdown in the blocking. So let's talk about Adam Vinatieri, because this is interesting to me. Chris Ballard has had a choice throughout the season, and twice he's chosen to bring in guys and have kind of a tryout at the Colts practice center. Who is going to be the kicker for the Indianapolis Colts? And in each of those scenarios, Adam Vinatieri wound up being the guy that Chris Ballard was most comfortable with, and he keeps riding Vinatieri. So a lot of people in Indianapolis, a lot of Colts fans are upset with Ballard because, let's face it, if Adam Vinatieri was perfect this year, there's a pretty damn good chance that the Colts right now are 11-1. Now, that's not perfect. Maybe they would have gone on to lose 1 or 2 of those games, but you get the idea. If Vinatieri is the typical Adam Vinatieri, the Colts are in a much better position than they are today. Right now, they're 6-6. They're 2 games back of the Houston Texans for the lead in the AFC South. They are 1 game behind the Tennessee Titans for the wild card, and the Steelers, they're up there as well. There are a lot of teams kind of in that mix for the second wild card. The Colts right now have an 11% chance of qualifying for the postseason, according to the people who crunch all those numbers. So, Vinatieri, did Ballard make the right decision? You know what? You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. It's like playing cards, and you either ride a hand to the end or you muck. And what Ballard has chosen to do is ride the Vinatieri hand to the end, and he's paid the price for it. What would have happened? Let's say that the Colts signed Cody Parkey. Well, there's no guarantee that Cody Parkey is going to make all the kicks that Adam Vinatieri's missed. In fact, there's a possibility that Parkey would be worse than what Vinatieri has been. Is Adam Vinatieri a better kicker than somebody sitting on his couch today? That's the question. So Ballard brings in people who have been sitting on their couches. He tries them out. He's not comfortable with any of them, so he sticks with Vinatieri. This is why Chris Ballard makes a big bucks. I wrote about this at KentSterling.com today. Being in management, sometimes there is no correct decision. This isn't like let's make a deal where you got a car behind the curtain and you've got a zonk in the big box. All right? That's not the way this works. Sometimes you got nothing but zonks, but you have no idea. What you do is take all the data and all the insight that you can gather, and you make a decision that's in the best interest of your franchise. And either it works out great or it doesn't work out great. In this case, it didn't work out great, but that doesn't mean that the alternative would have worked out any better. The result is that the Colts are 6-6. That's one of the big questions. That's Vinatieri. Another big question is going to come this offseason, and that is whether Jacoby Brissett is the long-term solution for the Colts' need at quarterback. Is he or isn't he? If he isn't, maybe you invest a first or second round pick in a new quarterback. You've got Brissett under contract next year, so you can ride with him in the short term and then replace him, if you like, with somebody that you prefer at quarterback moving forward. Maybe they like Chad Kelly. Hell, I don't know. I don't think it reflects well on Chad Kelly, though, that when there was an opportunity to get him some run, they chose to sign Brian Hoyer as the backup and pressed him into duty almost immediately when Jacoby Brissett got hurt. Anyway, that's a different question for a different day. But the truth of Jacoby Brissett right now is that he's a starting quarterback for a 6-6 team, and he threw 2 interceptions yesterday. He, as much as Vinatieri, as much as the special teams, a reason that the Colts lost that game yesterday. Is he the long-term solution? Do you want to draft a guy late in the first round, in the second round, in the third round, and hope you can groom him? Or do you continue with the status quo, and that is Brissett as your starter, Brian Hoyer as your backup? Let's remember this. as we talk about Jacoby Brissett. If Adam Vinatieri is perfect this year, there is a chance that the Colts are 11-1 and that Jacoby Brissett is being discussed as a potential MVP because he would be the quarterback of the team with the best record in the NFL. 11-1, if Vinatieri's perfect, potentially. All right? So don't discount Jacoby Brissett and the positive influence he's had on this team. If you look at the Colts and you see the 5-2 start and then all of a sudden you see 6-6, you think all are guilty and all must go. That's not the way Chris Ballard's going to run this thing. He's going to have to decide exactly what he wants to do at quarterback, and that is one of the big look in the offseason. We know that Adam Vinatieri this is his last roundup. He is not coming back for a 25th season. He is not going to kick in a fourth decade. How incredible would that be? What's going to happen, he's going to retire right off into the sunset, and off he goes. And the Colts are going to turn their attention to the quarterback position, and they got another big question. Look, T.Y. Hilton is a wonderful offensive weapon, but over the last 2 years, he has shown some difficulty in staying healthy. Health means everything at the wide receiver position, and you don't usually get healthier as you get older. Last year, he had the ankle issue, right? Had a tough time getting healthy, had a tough time practicing late in the season, didn't practice late in the season, just saddled up on Sunday and said, hey, you know what, let's go. And by the end, when they played the Kansas City Chiefs down in Kansas City in the divisional round of the playoffs, T.Y. Hilton was a shell of himself. This year, he's got a balky calf, came back, played against the Texans a little bit. He was on a pitch count. Then he aggravated it in practice this past week, and he was on the shelf yesterday. Without T.Y. Hilton, this offense is fundamentally different. So you've got T.Y. Hilton and who at wide receiver? Devin Funchess will have played one game this year as the number 2 guy at wide receiver because of his broken collarbone. Then you've got the number 3 guy, Paris Campbell, who has shown a total abject inability to stay on the field because of injuries. Then you've got Chester Rogers, who yesterday went out with a knee early in the game. So you are down 1, 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers. Do you need to invest an early round pick in a wide receiver or multiple wide receivers? Because the gambits that you ran with Deion Kane and Reese Fountain early in the draft a couple of years ago, those have not panned out. Teams passed on those guys early, middle, and getting late in the draft. You know what? For the reasons that we've seen. And so the Colts are without any kind of exterior presence on the field whatsoever. Zach Pascal did a nice job yesterday, but Zach Pascal's a guy who, coming out of training camp, people thought might get cut. That's who Zach Pascal is. Wonderful yesterday. Really, really good dude. Great guy in the locker room. As a third wide receiver, you got no problem with him. But as a 2 guy or as anything other than a guy coming off the bench to spell a weapon like T.Y. Hilton, he's inadequate. So you need weapons on the outside. You feel good about your offensive line. You feel good about the tight end position, despite the fact that Eric Ebron chose to have his ankles cut and get those fixed at this point in the season rather than try to gut it out for the rest of the season. You've got a defense that at least on the interior you feel good about. You feel good about the safeties, probably not so much the cornerbacks. They have a tough time staying healthy too. The NFL is a weird, weird place. And just as you think you've got your roster set, man, you know what? The fates will bite you in the ass and show you that you don't. And so the Colts at 6-6, they're not dead yet. They got a chance. Right? They've got games against Tampa, against Carolina, against New Orleans, and against Jacksonville. The New Orleans game, that's going to be a tough get on Monday Night Football down in New Orleans. The other 3 games, they got a chance to win. At 9-7, you got to win a tiebreaker in all likelihood to get into the playoffs. At 10-6, I think you get in. The Colts are in a position where they probably got to win out. Is that likely? Of course not. But is it possible? You know what? They did it last year, right? Last year, they were 6-6, wound up 10-6, won a playoff game on the road at Houston, although they don't have Andrew Luck this year, Jacoby Brissett has got to stop throwing it to the other guys because this Colts team is not good enough to overcome turnovers. Sometimes they're not good enough to win with turnovers, winning the turnover battle. They sure as hell are not good enough to win while not winning the turnover battle. So 3 questions for Chris Ballard. Vinatieri the rest of this season, Brissett in the offseason. How do you want to chart your course in the future of this franchise at the quarterback position? That's interesting. And then T.Y. Hilton. Are you ready to move on from T.Y., or do you want him? Of course you're going to bring him back. But can you afford to go into another season with him as your top weapon, as he has shown an inability to stay healthy? And this is a non-contact deal. This wasn't like like Funchess breaking his collarbone. You get that. This was non-contact. The calf went, and that's not good for a wide receiver like T.Y. Hilton, because you can burrow like Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison catching the ball and burrowing. You can avoid injury. If the only way you're going to get injured is through contact. But if you're not, if you have a propensity to get injured through non-contact means, you know what? Can you be trusted to be on the field every single Sunday? I think T.Y. Hilton is kind of evolving out of that role as his NFL career heads into what next year is going to be its 9th season. Let's talk about the Pacers for a minute. Pacers tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies without Ja Morant. So here are the Grizzlies as they will face your Indiana Pacers. They've got Jaren Jackson, who's terrific, no doubt about that. Jonas Valanciunas, yes, decent player. Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Jay Crowder, Kyle Anderson, if he can go. Tyus Jones, Solomon Hill. For God's sake, you got to win this game, right? Victor Oladipo and Edmund Sumner, they're still on the shelf. They're up in Fort Wayne practicing with Mad Ants. The team on this road trip, they're going to try to get it together. They took a tough beat out in Philly on Saturday night. Grizzlies tonight, you got to go ahead and win that game. 9.5-point favorites. I can't believe it's going to be a 9.5-point game, but you never know on the road. Maybe Memphis shows up. This is actually the second of back-to-back games for the Memphis Grizzlies. So kind of all the dominoes are in place for the Pacers to have a terrific night, kick over the first one, and roll through this game and cover that 9.5. Let's talk about the Butler Bulldogs. Bulldogs going to be in Oxford, Mississippi tomorrow night to take on Ole Miss. Butler 7-0 on the season, playing terrific basketball. All the Pistons are firing. They are playing great defense. All right, let's talk to Kamar Baldwin. Kamar, what's the key for you guys? Is it the defense? The key is the offense? What's the thing that gets you guys going and has gotten you guys to 7-0?
I would definitely say it's our defense. Just going out every night and just playing together as a unit and not letting our offense dictate our defense.
Late game scoring, like you had the bucket against Stanford that gave you guys the win. How do you feel in that role? You dig that role?
Oh, yes, sir. My role on the team, just be able to make plays, whether that's scoring or passing the ball when we need them to.
How key is it for you guys to be as experienced as you are and you guys to know each other as well as you do?
It's very key. We've got a lot of guys that played a lot of big minutes last year that come back. So when that pressure situation does come up, guys have been through it and are able to just play along and get the job done.
As your head coach over this 2.5 years, LaVale Jordan, how has he kind of evolved in that role? Is he different than he was when he first got here?
I wouldn't say he's different. I mean, I guess he's made a little bit of changes, but he still gives us the freedom. When we see something to go ahead and do it. If not, he'll call timeout, and Coach Meyer drop a great play for us.
How do you feel about going on the road the first time? This is your first road game of the season against Ole Miss. You've been on the road, but at neutral courts.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a good test for us. Just go out there and play our game.
You had an internship over the summer, so you were at 1070 The Fan. What was that like? What'd you learn?
It was great. I learned a lot. Being with Dockage and all the other guys. Just learning how to keep the listeners engaged when talking on the radio. learn how to do like some podcast things as well. So it was a great experience and made good connections.
Did you learn stuff about the like? We're a bunch of pests. We roll into practice once a week and talk to you guys, ask you guys insipid questions. Did you learn some empathy for us?
I wouldn't necessarily say you guys are pests or anything like that. That's for certain. But just how to just sound enthusiastic. All the time when you're on the radio, and just keep the listeners engaged.
What do you see, or what have you seen so far in the Big East to the extent you can kind of keep up with it and watch these teams that are going to be your opposition coming up pretty soon?
I really haven't had a lot of time to watch them, so I'm really not even certain. But I'm just focused on, Butler right now, just working on getting better each and every day.
It's a grind, though, isn't it? I mean, it's like the level of competition from 1 through 10 in that conference is withering.
Oh, yes, sir. Playing in the Big East, there are no off nights. So, you got to be ready to play each and every game.
Who's been a surprise for you of your teammates? Who have you seen go out and compete at a level where you're like, damn, all right, that's something I didn't maybe expect? I want to say everyone has stepped up their level in some way. When someone goes down, someone stepped up. Everyone steps up in a big way when we need it. So everyone has contributed to all the games this far. As far as the difference in the team with NZ on the floor and NZ not being able to play last year, it seems like he makes a big difference.
Oh, yes, sir. He does. He's able to guard 1 through 4, so we can switch. He's able to guard bigger guys or little guys. So he just gives us that versatility.
Tomorrow night against Ole Miss, what do you got to do to win?
Just play our game. Just be who we are. That starts on the defensive end.
And that's a thing at Butler, isn't it? The Butler way is a real deal.
Oh, yes, sir.
What's it mean to you?
Like I said, just play the Butler way, or play the right way. Deny selfishness, and just play for your teammates.
Did you learn that when you got here, or were you kind of that kind of player already?
I would say I was kind of that player already. I didn't play for myself. I played for the team, and always put the team first.
Playing for your team in high school, though, can mean that you need to go get, when you're a guy like you got to go get 30 in order for your team to win. You got to shoot it 20, 25 times. In college, it means something different, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. Just, accepting a role in college and embracing and knowing your role at the next level is a big key to the transition from high school to college.
Have fun tomorrow night. Thanks, Kamar.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Again, Butler basketball tomorrow night against Ole Miss at Ole Miss. First true road game of the season for the Bulldogs at Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling for Monday, December 2nd, 2019. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Want to remind you, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, Breakfast with Kent, straight up 8 o'clock. On Facebook Live, and then immediately thereafter, it's on Periscope Live, which is accessible on Periscope, of course, and on Twitter as well. My handle is @Kent Sterling, and it's all brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Join me tomorrow morning.